Good evening. It is January 26th, and we are reading The Red Tent by Anita Diamant. I always like to start off with, what does she look like? Here she is. She has other books out, the Jewish wedding book. Oh, she must have been really young there. A new chapter.
The book is very young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A new chapter in the fight for justice, period, which goes with the red tent. There's the red tent. And I have always really liked her. When I read the book, when it first came out, I was very intrigued by it. I can share with you now that after I read it the first time, I found out that she had never been to Israel.
Oh.
And I was shocked. Now, in the intervening years, I know that she's been there, but she already wrote the book. And, well, before I go in, did you like the book?
Yes, very much.
10.
Yeah. For me, I don't know if it changed the way I pray, but it changed the way I think when I do pray. Every single service, when you have the Amidah, the standing prayer, and in a Reformed congregation, we say the patriarchs and the matriarchs. I don't always think about the book, but I think about, it just gave me a different perspective on Leah and Rachel and Rivka and all of the matriarchs. You think about them a little differently. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend, whose Hebrew name is Lori, her Hebrew name is Leah. She didn't like Leah. Leah was picked second, was married first, but was not as beautiful as Rachel. And in this book, I think I certainly respect Leah and saw all she did for the family. And it gives you just a look into what an ancient biblical family, obviously it's fiction. But I know that my girlfriend felt that she got her name back because she really resonated with this person in the book. I guess I should read a little bit about Anita here. She's an American author. She was born in 1951. So I have to think about. Oh, she's 71. She has published 5 novels, the most recent of which is The Boston Girl. And she's best well known for the 1997 novel, The Red Tent, which eventually became a bestseller and book club favorite. She also has She has also written 6 guides to contemporary Jewish practice, including The New Jewish Wedding, Living a Jewish Life, The New Jewish Baby Book, as well as a collection of personal essays, Pitching My Tent. I will tell you, I have also read The Boston Girl, and I know some people had a hard time. We actually read it for book club many years ago. And if you get it,
is that the one about the summer camp? No.
A little bit, but they're in Boston and it's all, but they have girlfriends and boyfriends and I forget how it ended up of who gets married and that type of thing. But I found the audio version I'm going to have to look it up. A much easier read than reading it. The audio version was really amazing, and I'll tell you who read it in a second. And so, if you're interested in that, get the audio version of A Boston Girl. So, tell me more about what you thought about the book.
Did she also write All Other Nights?
No. That's Dara Horn.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
And I think that Linda Lavin, I knew it was somebody famous.
Mm-hmm.
from that TV show, Alice.
Right.
But she's got a little bit of the Boston accent. It just makes the book so delightful. I think Dara Horn is, well, I know she's younger, but she's a little more, I don't want to say scholarly, but I'm going to say scholarly. Dara Horn has a lot of books out there. And not that Anita Diamant doesn't write beautifully. I think she does, but Dara Horn, I think I have read all her books. I think we have done many in book club, and I highly, highly recommend her. All Other Nights was about the Civil War. And as you all know, I'm always looking for, Jewish books that are not in the Holocaust, which, and we usually do some Holocaust adjacent type books, but so
for that.
Yeah, but you have to. Anyway, hi, Roberta, welcome. Roberta, did you like, wait a minute. There you go. Did you like the book?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it years ago when I read it, and I liked rereading it, and I'm sorry I'm late. I just got home, so sorry.
You have an excused absence. The other thing, and I have to bring it up. Oh, here it is. Good. So this book is really, it comes from the text, and I'm just going to pull that up for one hot minute here. And this is Genesis chapter 34. And Dinah, the daughter whom Leah had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. That's the other, I listened to it this time, and she kept calling it Shechem, and it's Shem. Shem, son of Hamor, the Hivite chief of the country, saw her, took her, and lay with her, and disgraced her. So here we have, it's one line, and Anita draws this beautiful love story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was asking, is that translation mean because she was not his wife, or because he took her without her consent?
So it says here, Vaikach ota, and that means he took her. And
Okay.
usually when they're husband and wife, the Hebrew is he knew her.
Oh,
Right.
So this is different than he knows her. He took her.
so he took her.
Now, disgraced,
Oh, that was why it was considered a rape.
right, probably, yeah.
Probably, okay.
But being strongly drawn to her and in love with the maiden, he spoke to the maiden tenderly. Get me this girl as a wife. Jacob heard that he defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were in the field with his cattle, Jacob kept silent until they came home. Then, we read about all of this, and I can put this in the chat if you want to go and read it. And we do see that Simon and Levi, they were really the two perpetrators, and it was to have them be circumcised and then wait until they were in the greatest pain to kill them was very devious. Sandy.
If I had to describe this book in just 2 words, I'd say sexually explicit.
Well,
Yes.
Compared to anything else I've been reading.
Yeah. Listen, there was another book we read a long time ago, Rashi's Daughters. And I only read the first one. Jesse, do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Didn't we read 3 of them?
Well, I did, but
Yeah.
I got complaints about it because it was much more sexually explicit than this. And one person who, has since moved away, but she's like, Vanessa, how can you make us read this? And if you want some Jewish, titillation, Rashi's Daughters by Maggie Anton is the place for you.
Yeah.
This is about my limit.
Last night, when I finished the book, I happened to be speaking to the rabbi of the small congregation down here, Reformed rabbi. And she had naturally read The Red Tent, and as Vanessa went over it, went over, you know, the refresh my recollection of what the biblical text says. And I said, what sort of story or what kind of meaning are we to get from the brothers going to kill all of those men when they're at the weakest?
Right.
And she shared with me her thought, which I thought was kind of insightful, that you have to look at it at a different time and place.
Yes.
This was tribal culture. The Jews had not, I hadn't realized, you know, we don't have the 10 Commandments yet. And they really felt that their sister was desecrated.
Agreed. Roberta, Merle, and then Roberta, did you have your hand up? No. Okay, Merle.
Well, my husband helped me go back to the original Hebrew, and he felt that the second verb in that sentence, the one about via anah, that one translates as forced, raped, violated. And if the brothers really believed that, you could understand their retaliation. Yes. But I love the fact that she took this story and changed it so that the way she described it was more like a seduction and then full consent from the girl. Nothing like being forced or raped or violated. So I think her story made sense, you know, if you took it from her point of view.
Right. The other thing, which I don't think Anita Diamant mentioned, is right after this happens, right after they kill all the men, you know, Dina's husband-to-be and so on and so forth, that whole town, Jacob has a name change. He wrestles with the angel and he's not Yaakov anymore, he's Yisrael. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading a review that said he was so ashamed of what his family had done, he changed his name. And I always think about that when I think about his two names. And, you know, Israel is what we call one another, although I did, and having just listened to the last chapter, you know, the death scene is very vibrant. And with Jacob, he keeps calling for Joseph and Joseph. And I feel that I can picture most of her words of, you know, what happened and how it happened. And it's very poignant. And Rabbi Ike always says, on Friday night, the blessings you give to your children are that your girls are like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and that your boys are like Ephraim and Manasseh. And these are Joseph's sons. Rabbi says that they're the first two sons, first two brothers in the Bible who didn't try to kill each other. Because, you know, Cain and Abel, Abraham's, not that, you know, Ishmael and Isaac, well, they didn't get along. You know, Jacob and Esau, it is, and then Joseph, of course, is sold by his brothers. So, and also, as I read through the story, and this, I do a lot of Torah study. I produce Torah study, so I've been going over these stories, not that I didn't know them in the past, but there are so many clues. She has read her text, and she talks about, you know, the baker, and we know that Joseph got the baker out, and then Dina says that, of course, a dream with 7 fat cows and 7 skinny cows, you know, anyone could have translated that dream. And look, and you can also see that the women's lives, well, obviously, lo these many years. And going back to the chemistry lesson, even through the 1950s, being a woman is hard, just hard. And this book gives you a biblical appreciation of what all that they had to do. It's overwhelming to think, you know, they have to feed and clothe and birth those babies. I also love the midwife scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the peril that was accompanying childbirth.
Yes.
And the way she described death as a dog in the room, ready to take over.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
And yeah, Merle. And then Phyllis. Merle, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that in 2014, there was actually a mini series.
Yes.
2 episodes, and I got it from Amazon. And it was really fascinating. They had Minnie Driver playing Leia and Morena Baccarin as Rachel. And it was beautiful. They did a great job. And I got it from Amazon. So.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah,
Phyllis?
I was just going to say, I worked in the day school for about 25 years. And after I read this book the first time, I thought to myself, how could anybody name a daughter Dina?
Oh.
She had such a difficult, sad life. And every time I would get a student whose name was Dina, I was like, oh my God, who could do that?
Does this book give you a different perspective on Dina's life?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
My first cousin is named Dina. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until you said that. And it's a very popular name. And at the end of the chapter, when she goes back, because Joseph is his kids are going to get the blessing from Jacob, and they name all the generations. I hear some of the Hebrew names, and some of them are used to this day. Tirzah, Ephrat. I'd have to go back and look at them. Some of them are not as common. Also, Abraham's, like his second wife that Sarah let him have, Ishmael with Hagar, that's a very popular Hebrew name in Israel. And it always kind of amazes me what's a popular name and what isn't. Discuss the marital dynamics of Jacob's family. He has 4 wives. Compare his relationship with each woman. Or which one, are you surprised about? Or
The two youngest that were the illegitimate daughters. Was that a relationship? It was very sexual, but I don't know if it was a relationship.
wait, you mean Bela and Zilpah?
Yeah.
Right. Well, at the end, when she goes back, she finds out that Reuben has a relationship with Bela, the youngest wife.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that's in the Torah. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think it's in the Torah.
Yeah.
Well,
because we think of one God, we think of monogamy, we think of so many things in our current life. And this is really a revelation of what tribal life was in order to survive. You had to have sons. Daughters weren't going to till the land, raise the crops, feed the oxen, herd, so I love that she pointed out the value of women.
Yeah.
In this book.
The spinning and the weaving and all of that. Really, until modern times, the bigger the family you had, the better. Whether they went to work in the factories, whether they tilled the land, Jewish, non-Jewish, those are things that now in 2023 we think about differently because of ecology and going green. And I heard recently that for the first time, the population in China is either going down or
COVID.
Well, that's a different story. I think that China's one-child policy.
Right.
That's
Is it still?
They stopped that. I think they stopped
that,
didn't they?
They stopped it.
I was in China in 2009, starting a long time ago, and they said that people who lived in the country could have more kids. But I'd have to look it up, and maybe they are.
I thought it changed, but I could be wrong.
Right.
I thought it had changed.
Probably am.
Yeah.
I'm not up on my Chinese.
Well, I'll have to go look. I'm gonna have to go look. This book also changed for me the story of Rachel and Leah.
Yes.
That Rachel was scared and she said, Leah, please take my place. And she may have regretted it when she saw that, they fell in love and then he had to work for however much longer to get her. But I always, I don't know, blamed Leah or whatever. And this just gives you a different side of what's happening with Leah and how he trusts her to make all the decisions for the family and goes to her. And she's the one who can cook, and a lot of beer. There's also a lot of beer. I don't know how they make it, but there is a lot of beer in this story.
In the Bible, does it say that Rachel was so afraid of? No.
I think it says she was beautiful, and there's a wedding custom today that before you get married, the groom comes in and he puts the veil down to make sure he's getting Rachel and not Leah. So, I find it hard, and the book, I think, intimates this, that he knew it was Leah. How could he not know? Even if she was in like a linen thing, she was bigger, taller, whatever. He knew.
I think I remember when I got married that even though I'm divorced very happily many years, but when I got married, I think because we got married in the temple and they put the veil over my face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, when you look at these really Haredi, very Orthodox weddings, they do have veils that are so thick you can't see the bride.
Right. And what's the name of the ceremony they have? I can't think of it.
It's either called a bedekin or a Kabbalat panim, or
I had to walk around David 7 times before the wedding. Did you all have to do that?
I didn't.
No, I didn't do that.
Well, I was married when I was at the university, and the rabbi happened to be an Orthodox rabbi. So and he had to know when my last period was before he would set the wedding date.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Getting a little too personal for me, but that's okay.
I can't imagine that Rabbi Ike asks.
Oh my God. There's our picture.
Right.
Wanted me to tell you something really terrible I've never told anybody.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember a Rabbi Charlie from Lakeside?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He was the rabbi when my daughter was getting married, and I brought her to Lakeside to meet him.
Yeah.
I set an appointment, and he asked my daughter and the husband who was with her how often they had already had sex. He asked them such terrible questions that when she came home, she wouldn't allow me to have him do the wedding.
Yeah. I've never heard that.
Wow.
He was a terrible person.
Terrible.
Well, I think that was a terrible situation. He worked for many years.
Yeah.
Dina is rich in mothers. Discuss the differences or similarities in her relationship with each woman.
I think she got a little something different from each woman, and she went to each one for her individual need at the time. But she always really felt that Leah was her mother, okay? And the other, she called her aunts, okay? Right. But they all gave her a little something. That's what I got from it.
I agree. I think that Rachel giving her profession was very significant. And then when she passes it down at the end to the family, Merritt's family, who she takes on as her family, and as she becomes a principal mourner, I think that is very significant. And I also think first of all, barrenness is very predominant in the Bible. Sarah, didn't have Isaac till she was in her 90s. And I think that Rachel being a midwife and not being able to have children, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
No, it was either it had hurt her so badly.
Yeah.
But yet she kept doing it.
Right.
And why?
Yeah, I didn't remember that she died having Benjamin, and I'm going to have to go back and look at that. But that's what this story tells, and I'm sure Jacob was, bereft because his the wife I don't know if he loved her more, but
I think he did.
I think he did too.
Yeah. It's pretty evident the way he talks about her, comparing the other wives, that she was, and I don't know if it's because she was so beautiful compared to the others, but there was something about her that really touched him.
Yeah. In our different prayer books, in the Reformed prayer books, they switched up the order of how you say the matriarchs. And it used to be Rachel and Leah, and it used to be Leah and Rachel, and now it's Rachel and Leah. And I remember Rabbi Sarada saying to me, he had a young woman who was very upset that the Reform movement had done that. If that was the wife he loved, or he loved her better, but that this young woman's point of view was that putting beauty before age and maybe wisdom. And I thought that was a fascinating reaction to our switch up in the prayer book.
It is.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, kids ask a lot of good questions.
Yeah.
Discuss Jacob's role as a father. Does he treat Dinah differently from his sons? Does he feel differently about her? If so, how?
He didn't seem to think that much about her.
I don't think he had much of a
All he
relationship.
thought about were the sons, and she was the only daughter. And it's like he dismissed her. I think the word dismiss really fits that part of his life with her.
At the end of the book, when he really has no memory of her either.
All right.
Yeah.
Very heartbreaking.
And she was very upset that he didn't ask about her at all. Like you say, I don't think he remembered her either.
No.
Yeah.
I thought it was very poignant at the end of the book when it was Judah, I think, who remembered her.
Right.
And came up and said something and recognized her. I mean, listen, they were living hard lives with no sunscreen and no beauty products. And so if they hadn't seen each other for decades,
it's 11 sons and a daughter,
Yeah.
And the sons were everything to him.
Right. But I think their appearance probably changed so much. I grew up in Crystal Lake, and I go back there, and my mom is there, and I look around and think, do I know this person? And I finally realized that I was looking for like 18-year-olds, but I'm 63. I am not going to recognize my classmates. And that they're 63. And it took that a long time to sink in for me. I would be checking out. Could this be a classmate? No, it could be a classmate's daughter.
There was an old joke.
Your mind's stops with your own youth. You don't see yourself.
You don't see yourself age. Yeah.
There was a Facebook joke about someone who sees all of their, 4 of their childhood friends and can't believe how old they got.
Right. My don't tell Roberta 1 second. Don't tell my mother, but she saw some pictures of old friends. She goes, they're all so old. And I wanted to say, well, what do you think you look like? Come on. Roberta, go ahead.
Two things. I always love it when you start out with "Don't tell my mother this," and then you tell us a story. God love you, Vanessa.
Thanks.
I think I heard in it. I mean, it's probably not a remote idea, but there's so few women in the Bible who have names, you know, and so that's a significant thing when somebody has a name.
Mm-hmm. It is a significant thing when you have a name. And what I was going to mention is Dinah does not get any portions, like the 12 tribes, and they get their portions. Joseph gets a double portion because he gets one for Ephraim and Manasseh. And it's not until Deuteronomy, and you know, some of this is hard, you know, the chronology is hard to look at because I don't think that the Torah was written as a linear story and, you know, it just didn't go one year after another. But in Deuteronomy, you have Benot Zelophehad, the children of Zelophehad, and their father dies and they want his portion. And there's no sons. That's what it is. And so they petition, and they're named. They have names, and which is, of course, is significance. And they get it. So it's not until, and I'm sure it. Who knows what the time period is, or I'd have to go back and look and see what different scholars say about that. But it is significant that Dinah is just written off. Now, Joseph said he thought she was dead, and I'm sure maybe the brothers thought she was dead because her mother-in-law whisked her out of there after the massacre. And so, but she, you know, never gets her portion. And it's interesting how she was subsumed into the Egyptian household. And her son was not Bar Shalem, he was Ramos, and, you know, interacted with Joseph and whatever Joseph's, I can't remember his Hebrew name. And the whole thing with languages too, that, you know, the Egyptians were speaking. She was so happy to hear her mother tongue, and that they said her name incorrect, Diener, not Dinah. And it makes the story richer and come to life in my opinion.
It's such a visual book.
It is a visual book.
Yeah.
It is a visual book. And you know, you can also smell it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it just
I wanted to say one thing.
Yes.
Back with Leah.
Yeah.
Who, you know, she left Dinah her ring.
Yes.
Which I thought was very significant when it goes to who was her mother.
Why do you think that?
I think they had a special relationship.
Yeah.
I think they did. They had a special relationship.
Yeah.
That's what, I do.
Yeah. I also think, I'm sorry, Merle, go ahead.
Just when they got together in the red tent, it was so much about telling stories too. It wasn't just because it was their time of the month or just had a baby. They told stories, and there was something very special about that. The mothers and daughters can do that. Maybe sons don't listen the same way or care as much, but that was very special about her relationship with Dinah.
I can tell you that certainly in the last, I don't know, let's say decade, at camp, when a camper gets their period for the first time, they make a big deal about it.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Yeah. Like a party and
Yeah.
I like that.
I like daughter and granddaughter up there.
You should, right. I don't know that they did it when Emily was there. That's Phyllis's daughter. But I'm sure they did when Abby was there, Phyllis's granddaughter. And you should ask them about it. And
Natalie,
I'm for sure. And but you have to get your period for the first time at camp, which is, you can't plan that.
Should I ask Sarah about that, Vanessa?
Yeah.
I think
they ask the young girl if she wants this fuss, or they just do it.
I'm not 100% on that. I don't know any young girl who doesn't want the fuss. They're young girls. They like fuss.
Oh God, I remember in my own family though, when my mother told my father, I was embarrassed. I mean, I just didn't want anyone to.
Well,
I think it's because my family didn't talk about those kinds of things, so it wasn't something that was comfortable to be discussed. But I didn't.
I remember very distinctly getting my period and running to my mother and saying, "I'm bleeding." I thought I was dying.
Oh,
I didn't know what was happening.
My mother told me, and I wasn't even 12 when I got my period the first time. And I went and I said, "I think it happened, Mom." And she looked at me, "What?" I said, "My menstrual period." Just already.
Paula.
And in my family, my father and mother broke out a bottle of champagne and made a toast to me and said I was a woman. And I was 10 years old. I was very young when I got my period.
Oh, wow, that is young.
Made a huge, big deal out of
Who
it.
wants to be a woman at 10?
With Andy too.
Did they give you some ginger ale at least?
No.
And do we know in biblical times whether there was anything resembling the red tent?
Well, in a lot of cultures, women were just isolated when they were menstruating because they were thought to be impure.
And that goes to this day.
Sure.
This day. So there would have been a menstrual tent because many cultures did that.
Right. Today, with very Orthodox and even modern Orthodox, you can see their level of religiosity. And if you go into their bedroom and they have two beds, because when the woman has her period, they separate the beds.
Years ago, when my ex-husband was on the options exchange, the owner of the exchange, the clearinghouse, was very religious, and he had a Chabad there. And we went to it was a very young rabbi, and we went to his home for dinner one night, and in a corner of the living room was a single bed off to the side. And that's where she went when she had her period.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever saw anything like that, of course.
This Orthodox rabbi that married me at school, I was their babysitter. They had two sets of twins. And I remember, staying over at their house sometimes. And they had a sheet hanging by a rope between the twin beds. Even those separate beds, they had a sheet hanging at that time of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling. Yes, it's mind-boggling. And you hear about the different, they talked about when Rachel and Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah had their sons, when you have a baby, you still have to be separated from your husband. And I think, I'm going to have to Google this. I think that with a girl, you stay separated longer. I don't know why.
Did they stay in the red tent during their whole cycle? They didn't come out until they were completely done bleeding?
No.
I mean, it didn't seem like that happened that way, but I would assume.
I thought they said like 3 days or 4 days. I thought I remember.
But, periods usually last longer than that anyway.
Right. I think that, again, we're looking at this with modern eyes, that now children are getting their periods little girls are getting their periods much younger, and it's our diet and what we're eating. And so I think some of it has to do with being modern, and then in biblical times. And of course, listen, as soon as they got their period in biblical times, they married them off.
Right.
And look, again, in 2023, again, Rabbi Sarada has talked about this. There is sex trafficking and slavery, and some of the the portrayals that Anita Diamant did, that Ruti, that one woman who was Lavan's wife,
So sad.
or
Yeah,
or
right.
his whip. I don't even think a wife, servant, and the rape and you know, the violence and the abuse, and she had no teeth left, and
Yeah, it was
Horrible.
yeah, it was horrible.
And
It's
I'm
horrifying.
sure that happened. I'm sure that happened.
I bet it happens today too, Vanessa, that we don't know about. But
Yes.
you know,
Yes,
all
I
of that,
think
all of that.
right. We have worked extensively with Shalva, and that is a Jewish group that protects battered women and gives you advice and has lawyers and so on and so forth. But if you go on their site, they say if you just click, it'll go away. They give you an out so that if your husband is like stalking you, it won't show up again, and again, that's in 2023. So these are things that resonate, unfortunately, through the ages. And I keep thinking about the chemistry lesson. Phyllis, you have to get into it. I haven't finished it yet, but it's amazing, and amazing what this woman does, and the amount of discrimination that you had in the 1950s, and that wasn't that long ago.
Not that long ago, no.
Right. I have to ask my mom, like, I don't, you know, you couldn't open a checking account, and you couldn't do this, and you couldn't do that, and
I was divorced in 1976, and at that point, my credit cards, my name was taken off the credit card.
Right.
So I had to fight like a dog to get credit.
Right. You had no credit. You had no credit.
No credit, nothing.
And I remember I got married in 1984, and I remember somewhere, I don't remember where, but people saying, get one of the utility bills in your name.
Yep.
Get a credit card in your name. Now I had a job, and I think we learned, you know, we stood on your shoulders, so to speak, that we learned that you have to protect yourself, and these are some of the things that we have to think about.
And when I got divorced in '99, I was able to get my own credit card. Didn't have an issue, but when I was married, you know, both of our names were on the credit cards.
Right.
Once we got divorced, I got my own credit card. Wasn't a problem, thank goodness.
Right.
99 was a lot more liberating.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
I can't even. The book travels from Haran, contemporary Iraq and Syria, through Canaan and Shechem, Israel, and into Egypt. What strikes you about the cultural differences? Dina encounters vis-a-vis food, clothing, work, and male-female relationships. Oh, that's it. Because remember when she was, the first time she's in Egypt, she's surprised that the men and women are eating and talking together.
Yeah. Sitting together.
Yeah.
Well, and the Egyptian culture was so advanced compared to the tribal behavior that she was used to.
Right. What do you mean by advanced, Paula? Tell us more.
Language, you know, hieroglyphics, pottery, utensils, buildings, canals, you know, waterways, farming, livestock, how to handle livestock, how to grow crops, just a different culture.
Yeah. I was thinking about, Merle, go ahead.
Just, she had lived in a place that was so much desert. She didn't even know how to swim. So she was able to learn how to swim when she went to Egypt, which was wonderful for her.
Arthur and I were just on a mini vacation in Mexico, and his law partner was there. Don't tell them either. But the law partners, his girlfriend didn't know how to swim.
Oh.
And, she was, a full grown woman. And I said, you have to learn how to swim. You have to learn how to swim. And the one thing the Talmud tells us is that a father has to teach his children how to swim. I think it says son, but and not knowing how to swim, and then Benya teaches her how to swim. That's very lovely. But learning how to swim is just
life-saving.
Life-saving.
It's essential.
I'm sorry, what, Phyllis?
It's essential.
It's essential, yeah.
It is essential. And Paul, I don't know if you remember this like I do, but the other night I was speaking to my husband, and I happened to say to him, I don't remember not knowing how to swim. That
I don't either.
When we took classes at the YMCA, because I was told that, but I always knew how to swim.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember not knowing how to swim.
I don't really either.
I remember some people, like my mom's age, there was, when the polio epidemic was surging, that they didn't want you to go in swimming pools.
Right.
Because I don't know if you could catch it that way, and I don't know if they knew how you could catch it, not unlike COVID and AIDS and all of that. But
we weren't allowed to go to the beaches or anything in the summer. And I didn't learn how to swim till I was 41.
Wow.
On Moshav, I never told my kids that I didn't know how. And because I'm so very tall, I would take them in the water, and I could stand in almost 5 feet of water. And they didn't realize that I didn't know how to swim. And I got swimming lessons for all 3 of my girls. But when they were grown up and in school, I went and found a lifeguard and had him, paid him to teach me how to swim.
And that's very good. I mean, I told this young woman, that I said, you got to learn how to swim. You just have to. And they live near Lake Michigan. Anyway, in the red tent, we see Dina grow from childhood to old age. Discuss how she changes and matures. What lessons does she learn from life?
That it's hard, that you survive, that it's disappointing, heartbreaking.
I think one of her toughest lessons was not seeing her son again.
Right. But she did find love again, which I was very happy to see after her husband was
love again. Yeah.
She did find love again. So, and that was with her for the rest of her life at that point.
She also had very strong relationships with women, because she wouldn't have had Benya without Merit. And there was Inna, who was like above Rachel in there in the midwifery, and Tabia, Warren Rowe, and Merit. And they significantly, I think, changed her life.
Well, they gave her
I think also because she dealt with death on a regular basis. I think the way the author described her death scene was so beautiful. She didn't fear death because she had seen it so much and saw it as part of a continuum. I thought that was just a beautiful, I cried again when I read that scene, and as I had many years ago. I had forgotten that was coming.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a beautiful end to her life.
Yes, I agree.
She was seeing her mother and her aunts, everybody that she loved. And she was looking forward to it.
Her acceptance of that transition. Yeah, right. It was beautiful.
It was.
Yeah.
And very peaceful.
Yes.
It was a peaceful ending to her life.
Yes. And I guess it is pretty explicit, but she did deal with death in a way that most women do not have to. Sometimes I think about, working at a synagogue, we get phone calls every week of families who are dealing with death or hospice or whatever. And somebody called in one week and the other day, and it's a small office, so we can overhear each other. And then the admin hung up. I said, well, what hospital are they at? And do they want to be on the Misha Berach list? And do they want a phone call from a clergy person? And she's like, oh, I didn't know to ask that. I said, that's okay. You're going to learn that. And, just dealing with these people and these many years. I mean, I've worked in this job for over 35 years. And I think that it's very rewarding when you can be helpful to people and you can tell them what to do and what the next step is. And for people who don't deal with death, it can be very frightening, and they become flustered and they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was really, I'm going to go back and read that, but she was so peaceful. And
yeah.
Mhm.
How old do you think she was when she died?
Oh, that's a good.
She could have been 40 or 42. Life was so short.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And she was so entitled to a peaceful death.
Yes.
After all of her suffering and heartbreak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the massacre scene with her husband and his that's hard to imagine.
Yeah, that really got to me. She's feeling all this wet, and it turned out to be her husband's blood. And I did not like that scene at all.
Right. And if you read through the Bible, the Bible is the 5 books of Moses, that's the Torah, and then the next part is prophets, Nevi'im, and the last part Ketuvim. It's blood, war after war, and the parts with David are bloody, and the parts with Solomon there is a lot of blood, and it's very sometimes hard to reconcile that with the religion and praying and things that we do today in a modern way. Never mind sacrifices. Merle.
Well, right at the end, she gets so philosophical about death, and she says something about the lotus. She says, Egypt loved the lotus because it never dies. It is the same for people who are loved. Thus can something as insignificant as a name, 2 syllables, one high, one sweet, summon up the innumerable smiles and tears, sighs and dreams of a human life. And the name she was referring to was Dina, her own name.
Yeah.
So I thought that was beautiful, that your name is carried on, you pass it on to your children and grandchildren, although she unfortunately didn't have any, but the name is passed on.
Right. Well, she had Ramos, although I don't know that he would. And that Gara, the woman, that little grandkid that she's talking to at the end. Yeah, that she's going to, name, if she has a girl, she's going to name it Dina. And she didn't know she was talking to Dina. And that is, I think about, we can't know what happened with Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, but we keep saying their names. And I think as Jews, that's very significant. And that it gives me solace and it gives me prayerfulness when I pray. So next time you pray the Amidah, can come online or in person, you can think about these women and how they've affected you or us or our daughters. And
Vanessa.
Yeah.
Can Merle tell us again what that was called on Amazon? She said that.
Oh, yeah.
It's called The Red Tent. And you just go to Amazon, you say DVD, The Red Tent. And it'll come right up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it is 7:59. I think that our next book is going to be The Thread Collectors. It has, and it's a fabulous, fabulous book. It's set in the Civil War with a Black family and a Jewish family. And I want to try to Zoom with the authors. So I'm not going to give you a date till I talk to them.
Okay.
Which I should have done before today, but I didn't. Full disclosure.
What is it again? The thread what?
The Thread Collectors. I'll put a link. Yeah.
So sorry.
It's by Allison. There we go.
I just saw a review for this in the paper or something somewhere.
Yeah,
recently.
probably. It's amazing. I loved it. And again, although it's funny that you brought All Other Nights, the one other Jewish book during the Civil War, but we don't read a lot of Jewish books during the Civil War.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited about that.
It's very, very good, and I think it's very well written. But we all know the Civil War was very, very bloody, so don't expect this book to gloss over any of that.
Is there a lot of sex in it?
Is there a lot of sex? There is some sex, not.
Is there something happy in this book, Vanessa?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
There it is. And as soon as I have information, I'll let you know. This weekend, we have the poet Pamela Wax on Sunday morning, and it's virtual. So please, if you need the link, it's in Macomb at Home. And I'm trying to think what else is coming up. This Friday night, we'll have lovely services. But next Friday night, Brad Schneider will be there to talk about refugees.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Very nice.
And his father just died.
Oh,
yeah.
So
I don't know about anybody else. I've been trying to get it on Friday night, and I'm having a little bit of problem with the sound. Anybody else?
You're not the only one. We switched over to fiber, and we're trying to stream it. Give it another try this week. And if you have problems, email me, and then we really need to work this out.
2 weeks ago when they were live streaming, there was no sound at all.
No,
Yeah.
it didn't. Yeah, we had your site. It didn't work at all.
Yeah.
No.
And you know that if you have a yard site Saturday morning at 10:15 and it's a Zoom and I run it, they repeat again. And it's an hour service.
Okay.
Now, is this Friday going to be a Zoom or streaming, did you say?
Streaming. It's all streaming now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we don't Zoom anymore on Friday.
Okay.
Well, hopefully the sound will be working.
Hopefully the sound will be working. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I tried it on my phone.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Great to see everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you again.